That wasn't the question. The question was, what's the difference ideologically between America getting involved in helping Ukraine repel Russia and America getting involved in helping Israel repel Hamas? They're both thousands of miles away. They're conflicts that don't directly involve America. What is the ideological difference?
Well, I suppose we have to shift the premise a little bit here. America is involved in everything. Pace, to my libertarian friends, America is involved in everything. That is in part because we're the global hegemon. That is in part because we are an empire and have been an empire for a very long time. It is in part because nations have interests. All nations have interests. Even tiny little nations have interests, and they seek to influence other nations to better accord with those interests. So we are going to be involved in some way all over the world, whether that is in Ukraine or whether that is in the Middle East.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Piers Morgan Pretends to be Neutral, where logic gets stretched thinner than Piers' patient when he's not the loudest voice in the room. Tonight, it's a spectacle. We got Michael Knowles, a man who treats US foreign policy like a board game where Israel always wins and international law is just a pesky suggestion. Together, you'll see they're going to navigate the mental gymnastics of justifying America's endless involvement of foreign conflicts. Because, of course, global hegemon is just a fancy way of saying the world's referee when it suits them. Buckle up, because this debate's about to go from discussion to verbal demolition derby.
The question is, how are we going to be involved? And here I think President Trump's commentary was really, really important. Trump says, on the one hand, we're going to take over Gaza. We're going to own Gaza. You saw Netanyahu's eyebrow went up. I'm not sure he was totally prepared for that one during their press conference. On the other hand, he says, someone else is going to pay for all of this. We're not going to pay for this, and other people are going to figure it out. So what does that mean? If he says we're going to take over Gaza, we're going to own Gaza, people, I think, assumed that that means we're going to send in the Marines, or that we're at least going to send in the Trump Organization contractors to build a nice casino. On the other hand, the Marines cost money. So if someone else is going to pay for this, then it seems to me President Trump is saying, no, we're not going to be directly involved. We're just going to put a stop to this war, which is why I think our other co-panelist here, who makes the suggestion that Trump is always just giving the Israelis exactly what they want, is totally absurd. President Trump got a ceasefire over the objection of many Israelis. President Trump has helped the Palestinian people a lot more than any presidents in our lifetimes. And so I think what you're seeing
That's
here
literally the most ridiculous thing that has ever been said.
Well, I think it's.
He's
I think
done
we fact checked
more
that President Trump brought about the ceasefire.
Every
so,
turn.
Is that ridiculous?
Yeah, he did bring about a temporary ceasefire before he's about to propose a full ethnic cleansing. Listen, I have to interject here because Trump has done more to undermine Palestinian rights. He's recognized Israel's illegal occupation, illegal settlements.
What rights?
Recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital in violation of international law. Every single, I'm listing them for you.
That had been U.S. policy for 3 decades.
Entire unanimity of condemnation of Israel's illegal occupation that Trump has recognized.
Unanimity,
and just on that point,
so.
I really have to say that I'm fundamentally
unanimity. What,
yeah,
some
global
two-bit
hegemon
NGO,
acting like a rogue
organization?
state in order to enable another rogue state. Yes, the entire world, if you look at the logs of the international, of the UN General Assembly voting, it's obvious that Israel and the U.S. are out of step with the rest of the world on illegal occupation. I mean, it's just being condescending to somebody who does not know what they're talking about. It's just, it's always a wonderful experience. Maybe listen a little bit and try to learn and understand actually how the world works. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You're incredibly out of your depth. Okay, allow me to say a few words uninterrupted if you don't mind.
I think you've said a lot of words.
I'm extremely uncomfortable with the idea. Could I?
The United States is the global hegemon.
I have not spoken. You've been speaking over me the entire time I've been speaking.
All right, listen, guys, time out. We can't actually hear. Hang on, we can't hear either of you. So Omar, say what you want to say, then I'll let Michael respond.
Sure. First, I want to say that I'm incredibly object to the suggestion that the entire Palestine-Israel conflict is like two children fighting over a neutral toy and the parent needs to come and say, it belongs to neither of you gets to play with it. The correct analogy, if you want to use that, it's a parent walking their spoiled child out in the street, finding another toy, another kid who has his own toy, and letting their own child get on top of that other kid, beat the living crap out of them, and take the toy out of their hands. And what you need is for the parent to say, let go of that other kid's toy and leave it alone. The entire world agrees. There's no debate, especially on Gaza and the West Bank, that those are occupied Palestinian territories that Israel has no legal title to whatsoever. This is the entire UN. This is the International Court of Justice, the General Assembly, the Security Council. every major organization in the world, everybody recognizes that this is Palestinian territory that Israel has no legal right to. And so that's the dynamic. And if, again, you want to try something a little bit different and say the idea that Trump is more pro-Palestinian or has done more for Palestinians, literally he's done nothing but strip Palestinian rights inch by inch in a world in which the U.S. has always said, you know, by, on the one hand, saying Palestinians deserve their own state, they deserve freedom from Israeli occupation, where U.S. actions were essentially to allow Israel to continue to entrench that occupation without any question. Trump came along and made the rhetoric match the policy. He fixed it in the wrong direction, which means that now Netanyahu is having his wish list. What he wants to do is empty Palestine of indigenous Palestinians in order to make it a Jewish supremacist state and not have the apartheid problem anymore, where Israel rules over Palestinians without granting them rights.
All right.
And when you come out and give that to Israel, you're not pro-Palestinian, and it's utterly absurd and ridiculous for anybody to suggest that Trump has done anything.
Okay, I'll let Michael respond to that.
Positive.
Then I'm going to come to get other reaction. Michael.
I think it's kind of silly to say there's total unanimity on the matter of Israel and Palestine when we're sitting on a panel debating the matter of Israel-Palestine, and especially when the global hegemon, the United States of America, disagrees with all of the two-bit international institutions and non-government organizations that you're citing. So it's simply a matter of fact. It's a long-standing controversy, and if you're talking about Palestinian rights, we need to be specific as to what those rights are. There has never been any such thing as a Palestinian nation state. There's no
incredible
right
that
to
you think
elect
that that's a
Hamas.
legitimate dispute.
You know, I allowed you to spew your ridiculous
the entire world
propaganda,
on one hand,
but
the
perhaps
entire
you can allow
world
me
on the
to
one
finish. You're
hand,
not.
and the
Maybe-
U.S.
maybe,
enabling
you're not
Israel to
capable of
violate
comporting
international law
yourself
is
in
the
a
dispute that you're
conversation,
saying.
much as the Palestinian Arabs in Gaza are not capable of electing a legitimate
correcting,
government. So,
yeah,
all right.
Thank you for that racist dig. I appreciate it. But no, let's just be clear.
Racist.
What the U.S.
I'm
is
the same
saying is that
color as the
Israel is above the
Palestinians.
law. And if you think that that makes it a legitimate dispute about what the law is, that's an absurd
When did I ever
position.
say
You're welcome
Israel
to
is
take
above
it.
the law?
But
When did I ever suggest that? You're trying to stop me from speaking because
you're suggesting
I'm refusing your argument,
that there is no
that's fine.
unanimity. You're suggesting that there's a legitimate dispute, and I'm telling you that the dispute is the United States is saying Israel is above the law. That's the dispute. The entire world thinks that international law means something, and you can't take other people's land. And the U.S. says no, Israel gets to do it. Let
me bring in Vinny. He's been waiting patiently, unusually patiently, Vinny. I got to say, you've been on exemplary behaviour today. I salute you. Let me just ask you a slightly different way into this, because I find your conflict over this fascinating. I think a lot of people on the right are going to be conflicted by this, because apart from anything else, how does all this sit if you take Trump's dream proposal to its logical conclusion and American troops are on the ground all over Gaza protecting this new Riviera and all the Palestinians are going, and this is all happening thousands of miles from America. How does that sit with America first? I mean, is there not a direct conflict there with that whole ideology?
Yeah, Piers, and that's why I said from the beginning it's conflicted on two sides. I mean, you know, Piers, you know me as a United States Air Force veteran. I am anti-war. The reason I left the military was because of the actions of the United States after 9/11, this weapons of mass destruction, this BS war that we were pushed into. Which, if you don't forget, Bibi Netanyahu did go in front of Congress and say also that Saddam Hussein not only had weapons of mass destruction, but that killing him, taking him out, would cause positive reverberations throughout the entire region. It did anything but that. But Piers, you know me, I'm anti-war, but at this situation, what else do we do? Okay? There's one side, and just like Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles told this, Ben Shapiro has said, you know, Israel could take care of itself. All right? Obviously, it can't. It's a horrible situation that's not going to get better. And I wanted to ask Omar, who's running, if the Palestinian, is Hamas in charge? Who's actually in charge? And what solutions do you have to taking out Hamas running the show? Because if they're in charge, nobody's going to stop, Omar. Nobody's going to stop. They're not going to stop.
Yeah.
And I'm not, like I said, Piers, I'm anti. Go ahead.
Yeah,
the obvious answer is you should ask how Hamas came to power. There was a two-state solution on the table back in the late 1990s towards 2000, with the idea that Israel was going to end the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza to allow the facilitation of a Palestinian state. And there was no support for Hamas at the time. They were trying to sabotage that deal. But only when Israel made clear that they have no interest in allowing a legitimate Palestinian state to exist kept entrenching the occupation and insisting that Palestinians must live forever under the boot of Israeli occupation, that's when support for Hamas rose and Hamas became a political force to contend with. So if you have a problem with Hamas being empowered, the obvious alternative is to create a peaceful path where Palestinians can be a free people. And as long as American policy is to enable Israel denying Palestinians freedom, that is precisely what empowers groups like Hamas and makes it impossible that we're going to get rid of groups that are advocating for violence as a means of achieving liberation.
Okay, let me ask.
When Israel has blocked every other avenue for freedom.
And there you have it, folks. Michael Knowles, master of mental gymnastics, performing triple backflips to justify Israel's actions while pretending the entire world's consensus on international law is just a minor technicality. And Piers, oh bless him, he tried so hard to play the neutral moderator while interrupting the actual voices of reason, like a malfunctioning microphone that only works when it's convenient. Meanwhile, the other panelists came in like a wrecking ball, armed with facts, international law, and a basic understanding of colonial history, leaving Knowles scrambling for the safety of, but America is a global hegemon, like it's a cheat code for dodging accountability. If this debate were a boxing match, Piers and Michael just got TK'd in the first round, and the ref was too busy yelling over the fighters to notice. Good luck spinning that one, gentlemen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one.